Loneliness in the workplace. Sounds like a lonely topic, but how to conquer it. That's what we're going to be talking about with our friends here. Jennifer Currence, who is the president of OnCore Management Solutions. Thank you for stopping by. And Andrew Machota, the CEO of Newtown Connections, who's been on air a couple of times. Good to see you.
You too, Al.
Hi.
Lonely? Are people really lonely at work, Jennifer?
Well, yes, they are. And the way it shows up at work in the HR world, we have the word engagement, right? So,
I've heard that, sure.
Yeah, so Gallup poll actually says that 70% of all employees are disengaged in the workplace.
No, why?
Well, they don't take time to connect. We email each other from our cubicles next door, and we don't have that one-on-one connection. And the fact is that we as human beings are made for relationships, and we just don't take the time to do it in the workplace.
Newtown Connections, you've been on our show before because you talk about trying to help people make these connections. But define for me what a connection is in the workplace.
To me, it's having a genuine and authentic relationship that if you have a friend at the workplace, that the chances of me actually leaving a company are slim to none. That if she's my best friend at work, I want to be there all the time. So having this connection at work is more than just that email, that chat. It's about doing stuff outside of work, doing a fun activity, having an experience. And with everything I do, it's really about the experiences of getting those connections outside of work and building that relationship.
Do people want to make those connections? Because sometimes we're not all exactly wired the same.
Yes.
I know some people in our newsroom that love connections, and I know some that are not so big on connections. They're all excellent workers, but do we crave connections or not?
I would say, yeah. I mean, we definitely crave them, but it's just hard at the workplace because you can't force people to do stuff outside of work. So what I tell employers today is if you can do an activity or experience on work hours, that's really relevant to get your employees together on work hours and trying to force them to go to a happy hour at 5 o'clock.
A phrase that hear it's a buzzword: work-life integration. I ask for definitions a lot because I'm curious about. Well, I kind of know what it means in my mind, but as you working in the HR business and you working with trying to connect, how important is that, and do people make that a priority? Because sometimes, especially if in the younger generation, it's about climbing that ladder and trying to progress.
Well, and also in the younger generation, with all of us, we have that purpose. We have that. We want to be connected with each other at a workplace because of the common purpose or commonality that we have. So we used to have work-life balance, which is a sense of, okay, I go to work, and then I have to balance that with my life outside of work. But because of these little gadgets that we have nowadays that are attached at our hip all of the time, we have integrated, and we're never, even when we go on vacation, we're still connected to the people at work, whether it's a text or email or FaceTiming. So,
but Andrew, are we really connected, or are we connected to a device that makes us think that we're connected?
There's a big difference in a real connection versus what we have on social media. That me and Jennifer, we may be connected on LinkedIn or Facebook, but if we don't have a real conversation in person, I don't treat that as a genuine connection. So there's a big gap between a genuine connection and just people we know on social media that I met you at an event 5 years ago and we were friends on Facebook, but we never talked. That's not a genuine connection.
Mm-hmm. With corporations and companies, if you can show there is a bottom line improvement, in other words, financially, then people are more likely to listen to you when it comes to telling them about, you got to figure out about making connections, right?
Yeah, and a lot of times I have this conversation with my clients, and they're like, well, we're just so busy. We have things to do. We don't have time. This sounds great, but we don't have time to do it. Mm-hmm. And the fact is that disengagement in the workplace is costing companies $500 billion with a B, $500 billion a year, according to Gallup. Gallup research shows that. And so that's why I really love what Andrew's presenting for the workplace.
Now, you've been doing Newtown Connections. Are we at 2 years now?
3 years.
Oh, it's been that long.
Yeah, I know we're getting old here.
I'm getting old. You're not. You're still very, very young. So have you seen some success along that way? And because I know that you're not just, let's create a party and let's all go there. I know you're very sincere in what you're trying to do. Is it working?
It is, and that, I've worked with companies that want to do a scavenger hunt or do an escape room or do a private cooking class. If these companies take 2 or 3 hours out of their workday on a Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon and say, you know what, I'm investing in our employees to go spend 2 or 3 hours with Andrew and his group to go do a cooking class, and there's 20, 30 employees, they have fun, they come back, they leave at 5:30, go home like normal. Mm-hmm. That builds value and experience to these employees where they have something to do, it's fun, and they actually get to connect with their coworkers.
In the old world and the new world. Mm-hmm. Old world, you could work for a company 10 or 15 years. I've been blessed 21 years here. I mean, I know I'm very, very odd that way. some people are afraid to form connections because you have to have a work life, but you also have to have a life that's apart from that. And sometimes I think that if the two are interlaced too much, you may not get, in quotes, the break that you need by having your own personal space besides your workspace. Or am I being too analytical?
No, I think there's some truth to that. And when I go into people, do exit interviews with employees who are leaving, they'll say, I'll ask them, what are the things you like best about this company? And inevitably they'll say, I love that it has that family feel here.
Yeah.
But then they have to leave for other reasons because of usually a bad manager. But
really?
Yeah, that's the number one reason people leave their jobs is because they don't connect with their manager. Again, managers will email people so they think they're having that connection, but they don't spend time to sit and talk with them one-on-one.
And yet, when you tell your managers this, what's the reality of whether they listen to that advice? Because sometimes managers got into their position by being able to advance up the ladder. And if they don't listen, where are we at? Are we back at square one?
Yeah, don't get me on that soapbox.
Okay, I won't, because I'm trying to keep it positive.
Yeah, no, but honestly, companies will promote people because they're great technically at what they do, but they don't teach them how to manage individuals, which is really a space that I focus a lot of my business on, teaching good managers to be great leaders.
And if they're great leaders, another thing, this is an old school, you always avoided turnover because turnover was too expensive. And yet I see a lot of business models where turnover is not only expected, it's built into the budget. And sometimes I see in some of these bigger companies, and I've talked to a couple execs, our turnover rate is about 21%. I'm going, 21% turnover, you're going to have people going in the door so fast. I mean, that's all you're going to be doing. You're not going to be able to get anything done.
Well, especially with the millennials, that a lot of my friends, we change jobs every 2 to 3 years.
Really?
And that's what I try to help companies on, to get these millennials connected, that if these millennials find their purpose and they're actually excited about going to work and they're excited about who they work with, they'll stay longer. Because the turnover, if you lose someone every 2 or 3 years, like, that's a huge cost that they have to overcome every single year.
One of the things that managers and leaders don't realize is that it takes 6 months for a new employee to get up to speed. 6 months at least to a year, or sometimes 2 years, I've even heard. So when they lose that employee, there's a lot going into that.
Yeah, so let's kind of wrap this conversation up. So if people are concerned about this and making connections, let's talk about your Newtown Connections. Do you have regular events that occur, and if you're not within this circle, can they attend?
Yeah, so Newtown Connections, we have our own individual events like every single week across Tampa Bay. And then we also have specific events for companies that if you want to do an internal event, like I said, a rock climbing, a scavenger hunt, art tour, we can set that up for your company as well. So it's two prongs, individuals and companies on board too.
And OnCore Management Services, tell me about your place.
Yeah, I work with companies to really provide great leadership within the organization, throughout their organization, for all of them.
Right, yeah. So, and I will tell you folks, because some people, we're not all built the same, but you want to make connections, sometimes you got to put yourself out there. Sometimes that hurts a little bit, but in the long run, by making human connections, gosh, you're going to be so much better off, because my computer always says reboot. Who's reboot? Thank you so much, Jennifer and Andrew, for being with us.
Thank you, Al.
Appreciate your time.
Welcome.
Thanks.